And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website seatpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Episode 308. I'm going to stop this thing as soon as it does the thing that I needed to do. It did not do the thing I needed to do, but here we are. Okay. Episode 308, Constitutionals Podcast. Dog is here, cat's sleeping, and I got a brand new desk. No big deal. Not brand new, it was used. I bought a standing desk. Got a good deal on it. I just told this is a small anecdote. Told this whole anecdote on LinkedIn, Late Night Lately. I think I actually told it on LinkedIn Logs as well. But here we are. Now I'm living the standing desk life. I'm currently sitting. What's been going on? Today is... Okay, so this episode is late. But I did go see a movie last week. I saw Beetlejuice. It's too scary. And you know what? Man, what a funny movie. I was just laughing my little butt off. Then I found out. I was like, why is the... I know the guy who plays the dad is not dead. Why was he not in the movie? Like, as soon as the movie ends, I Google. I go to the Wikipedia page. And I go, what happened to the guy? He's a bad man. He's a bad man. Still, and he was still. This is like in the early 2000s. He was still getting cast in things, and like as recently as a couple years ago. I was in there like, what? Excuse me. They still cast this man. Legal issues. I wouldn't say it's legal. He was in the like one of the things, or two of the things that I thought, like after the fact that the thing had come out, it was bad. It was with kids. That's how bad it was. Boys, I'll tell you that much. Look it up yourself. He was in Deadwood. And you still go cast this man? Anyway, whatever. Beetlejuice is very funny. It's not as the night before I went, I watched the original again. That one was so like dark and dirty. And then this one is just a little less version of that. I don't know. But I think it told a very nice story. I do think that what's his name? Burton said this one took 30 some odd years to make, 35 years to do this. And by the time in another 35 years, I'll be 100. So this is probably the last one. Just do a third one and call it Beetlejuice. I think it'd be very funny. And oh my goodness, Monica Bellucci was just, man. She could stomp on my chest anytime. Oh, episode 308. That's the dirtiest we'll get. Let's get on with the show. This comes from The Wrap, written by Lucas Manfredi. Venus Sports antitrust trial set for October 2025. Now, if you'll recall, Fox, Warner Brothers, and Disney all teamed up to make a sports streaming platform where they would collect all of Fox Sports, it would collect all of ESPN, it will collect all of the Warner's sports assets and put them into one streaming venture. It was supposed to launch, today is September, it was supposed to launch this month. Fubo, about 2 months ago, sued them and over antitrust, saying that it was going to be a monopoly. U.S. District Court Judge Margaret Garnett granted Fubo a preliminary injunction last month that blocked Venu from launching, now states that there's a trial set for Thursday, October 6, 2025, which means that Venu cannot launch currently at all. In the short term, that means Warner Brothers is going to be struggling for major sports packages. That includes basketball. That includes football. Because they don't have any football, I don't think. They just have college, right? Maybe. I don't even think that's true. But that definitely does put a damper in the plans for making money off of sports streaming. Fubo TV is like Hulu with live TV. It's like YouTube TV, but the focus is mainly on sports. The judge noted that the dates and deadlines would, quote, not be extended absent compelling circumstances, and that the trial set date should be treated as firm. So, pardon me. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so worked up about this. Between September 16th and October of next year, they already have a line of things loaded up, such as starting on the 16th of September, defendants Fox's motion to transfer is due. October 7th, Fubo's opposition to Fox motion transfer is due, and so on and so forth. It's just preliminary trial stuff that typically happens. Fubo has accused the studios of engaging in a years-long campaign of anti-competitive practices to block its business, with Venu Sports being the latest example. The lawsuit also slammed the trio for forcing Fubo to carry dozens of expensive non-sports channels that its customers don't want as a condition of licensing sports content. Fubo will have, Fox Broadcasting on top of Fox Sports, but it's saying that people only want Fox Sports when they choose Fubo TV. But with any traditional cable subscription, and for lack of a better term, Fubo, Hulu Live TV, Sling TV, YouTube TV, they're all basically streaming cable. You have to purchase all the channels in order to offer things on your platform. So look at Viacom with YouTube TV and Hulu Live TV. You couldn't get Viacom channels for years, and then they finally made deals, and you couldn't if YouTube TV just wanted BET, VH1, and Paramount Plus and Nickelodeon, they would also have to get CBS and the other ones I didn't air. MTV2, Bravo, the rest of they have to get those because that's how packaging works. And yes, and they would charge you the same amount of money. So if it's essentially $14 per customer, then YouTube TV floated that money, that payment towards their users. So we went up from $60 to $74. Following the suit, lawmakers including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Jerry Nadler, and Joaquin Castro issued several letters expressing concerns about Venu, asking for more information about how the bundle could impact access, competition, and choice in the sports streaming market, while urging the Department of Justice and Federal Communications Commission to investigate. And I mean, in a lot of cases, yeah, it is an antitrust thing, because you have three of the biggest studios in the world coming together in the industry, coming together to offer something that is anti-consumer and anti-competitive. I'm trying not to say anti-consumer. I would say anti-competitive more so than anti-consumer, because the price was, I think, like $40. And along with Venu, you also were going to get TNT. Let me say that again. Along with, ESPN and Fox Sports, you would get TNT. and the networks that, and TBS, the networks that aren't traditionally sports networks, but that's where Warner airs their sports. They air baseball on TBS. They air basketball for now on TNT, and hockey on TNT. And again, I think college sports. I don't know. And in a lot of cases, I think Fubo is correct in that it is an anti-competitive move for Venu to come out. In a lot of cases, though, I think it would have put, I don't want to say a fire under the feet of everybody else, but the two companies that were left out were Paramount and NBC Universal. Now, this comes from the rap written by Lucas Manfredi. Apparently, according to co-CEO of Paramount, George Cheeks, he says Paramount wasn't hurt by exclusion from Venu Sports because it focused on multi-genre offering instead. Now, Cheeks says, I think it's because we're really focused on multi-genre offering, blah, blah. When we look at the stats of Paramount Plus, we look at subscribers who came in for sports. 90% of their time is spent on the services with non-sports content. So I think more of the robust offering sports that has sports and has news, it has entertainment as a better offering for the consumer. So he's basically saying people who are watching football on Sundays, if CBS is carrying two games, maybe in between those games they're going over to the live channel, the live comedy channel, and watching Cheers. That's what I do. Maybe they're watching old episodes of The Wild Thornberrys. Maybe they're watching Evil after the fact. It's, I do think I was all for Venu coming out because I did want to see this kind of competition, but when you look at the broad strokes of things, it would just be Paramount and NBC Universal, who also have sports packages, golf, football, college sports. That's all on CBS. NBC has the Olympics, the Paralympics, college sports, the basketball now, football, golf. It would be like, if there was only two console makers or three console makers, and suddenly Nintendo and Microsoft teamed up. Wait a minute, they did. I'm naming something that did happen. They team up and release exclusives only on their console. They say, hey, we're only gonna put out this new Halo game only on Xbox and Switch, but not PC and not PlayStation 5. I mean, it wouldn't be a Halo game. I couldn't think of a franchise. Yeah, I'm a huge Microsoft fan. I couldn't think they don't have a franchise. They have Gears and they have Halo, and that's pretty much it. That's kind of what they're doing with the Hi-Fi Rush, though. And that's what they're going to do with Starfield, right? Is Starfield on PlayStation? No, it's not. It's on PC and it's on Xbox. NBC Sports Acquisitions and Partnerships President John Miller argued that it doesn't make sense. What? That it doesn't make sense invest in a product. It doesn't make sense to invest in a product that, quote, loses basically 45% of the NFL, has none of the major golf championships, loses half of motorsports in NASCAR, loses March Madness every other year, and will lose half the NBA opportunity because Amazon and NBC have two NBA packages. And he's right. But I also think that if a real sports fan, if Venu was subject to come out this year as it was supposed to, a real sports fan would pick up, and in lieu of getting Fubo, they would pick up Venu, and then they would have Peacock, and then they would have Paramount Plus. And in the end, that is roughly the same price as Fubo, but it offers more because you get the shows on Peacock, you get the shows on Paramount Plus. Yeah, the apps are more broken. So we'll have to revisit Venu in a year. It was always something that seemed plausible that Venu could come out, or there could be an injunction against it, and they'd have to hold on to it. But I don't know. Venu was a iffy thing to start with because you don't need another platform. We should be done making platforms. Now it should just be bundles. This next one comes from James Hibbard over at The Hollywood Reporter. House of the Dragon and Rings of Power facing epic headaches as Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin rips HBO over changes to Dragon, and fans ding the second season of Prime Video's pricey Lord of the Rings adaptation. Executives cautiously navigate a minefield. TV shows and movies, but TV shows now, these prestige TV shows, cost so much money to make. House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings of Power are two of the most expensive shows probably in television history. For the Rings of Power, it is $715 million. They haven't had, the second season debuted this year after 2 years of being off and filming and stuff like that. And a lot of people are iffy on that show. And, besides the racist things that people say about the people of color on that show, they're not fans of the storytelling, more so. The show's Rotten Tomato scores are similar to the first season, 83% among critics, 58% among fans. I don't know. It's been in my list, and it's a heavy thing, and I don't want to watch a heavy thing right now. Same thing for House of the Dragon. I just don't want to watch heavy stuff. And then I watched all of The Boys when that new season came out. Well, that's light, because it's funny. There's like funny things that happen in there. Oh, I love it when the racist Nazi guy is superhero is funny. But the thing is, these shows are so popular. According to Hibbard's writing, shows like Fallout and The Boys, both on Prime, still don't have the global reach of even Season 1's Rings of Power. The company has also said 40 million viewers worldwide have watched at least some of the first 3 new Rings of Power episodes through its sophomore season's first 11 days. Lord of the Rings is obviously the older franchise, but people watch those movies every single year. Even The Hobbit, people still enjoy the Hobbit movies and watch them a lot. I have no issue with the Hobbit movies. It's just crazy that you can make a magic-based TV show or movie and there's no colored people in it. Just saying. And then if you look at House of the Dragons, people are mad because the second season was 8 episodes long, and there was a cliffhanger. Again, I don't know. I have not seen the show. I'm just retreading what this guy has written. But George R.R. Martin came out last week, and he was livid. He's been going to Warner Brothers. He's a producer on the show, I believe. His name is on the show, obviously, because he created that universe. But he has been going to. He's been very candid about his concern about the show. And people at Warner Brothers have been like, HBO insiders say executives were, quote, frustrated but not surprised because George R.R. Martin had written a post on his own blog and posted it up, and people were agreeing with him and everything. I think my viewpoint to that is, hey, George, finish the books. Finish the books so these people have something to go off on. And even if House of the Dragon is a spinoff, if you finish that series, finish the original book. That's why, I understand that there are issues with the original Game of Thrones and the original series and the last couple of seasons. My thing is, it's a lot like Lost. They had nothing to work with, the creators of Game of Thrones, and they were just like, you know what? Let's just put some shit together and let's make this last season. I'm not saying that they were like, oh, let's do this, but like they're just like, all right, well, the books aren't finished, and we have to make something up, and he's not going to tell us the ending. And it's the same. I think the same thing goes for the Rings of Power and for House of the Dragon, where these things are just made up magical things that there's no skeleton. I gotta stop saying skeleton, but there's no Bible for all of this, and they have to make it up. And yes, it is their job to make it quote unquote good, but I mean, it's all the same crap, isn't it? Like, isn't it all the same crap? Again, you know what? I have seen Rings of Power. I fell asleep during the first episode. That's not a joke. That's very true. I fell asleep twice. The same thing also happened with The Wheel of Time. I tried to watch that show 3 separate times, and I could never get through the first episode. Mostly because I always start the episodes at like 9 p.m. at night, and my bedtime is 9 p.m. And I'm sitting here on the couch watching it. I go, oh, I'm tired, and I fall asleep. And I wake up, and it's on episode 3, and I'm like, what? That's what always happens. But just finish the work. George R. R. Martin, when reached out about a comment for the whole situation surrounding House of Dragon Season 2, he instead offered high praise for his next HBO series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is coming to the platform next year. And it's apparently another spinoff of this Dragons thing, whatever. And I really like the end of this that Hibbert wrote. In an era of 600 scripted shows, the good and bad news for Amazon HBO is that a lot of people care about Rings and Dragon, and that making them will always be a double-edged sword. 10 years ago, I think if these two shows came out on these platforms, nobody would care. Nobody would bat an eye. But I think because they're so big and they're so globally reached and people are so vocal online, you know what? I may not agree with them, but I think they're right to criticize it because I love Taylor Swift. I love Nintendo. I love U2. And I'm gonna be very. I'm not gonna go online and write things about them, but I'm gonna be very critical about the moves they make. You know, if Nintendo is going to have as ancient hardware as they do with the Nintendo Switch, I'm gonna be very critical about their online infrastructure and say like, hey, I need to be able to access these games that I've bought 7 times over. Because if I have to buy Super Mario World again, I swear to God, and I don't have to. If I have to buy Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Heroes, or whatever, Super Mario Maker, who cares? If the Nintendo Switch 3 comes out and I can't play Pokemon Sword on it, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so mad. The same thing will happen if the PlayStation 7 comes out and the Xbox Series X3. If those come out and I can't re-download the games that I purchased, I'm going to be livid. So people have the right to be critical about these things. However, I mean, we should just have a little bit of grace because the things that happen in these shows, they're doing them for a reason, you know? There's a reason why it took, and I hate to go back to Disney Marvel because I just hate bashing on them, but there's a reason why it took, so long to get the X-Men inside of this Marvel universe. So long that I have stopped caring about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever I stopped watching the movies. All right, let's move on to the next thing. CBS wants a bigger 60 Minutes. This comes from Alex Weprin at The Hollywood Reporter. Behind CBS's plan to supercharge 60 Minutes. This is, I think 60 Minutes is a great franchise. I think CBS News does great work. I think this is too little too late. This is but I'm not saying too late, like as if like 60 Minutes is gonna die off after 57 years or 57 seasons. But this step into the digital age for 60 Minutes is something that has been slow going. If you remember when was 60 Minutes Plus a Paramount Plus thing? 60 Minutes Plus. 60 Minutes Plus. Oh, Overtime. Is that what it was called? Overtime? Yeah, 60 Minutes Overtime. No, it was 60 Minutes Plus, you idiot. 60 Minutes Plus. This is what I'm going to do. It's 60 Minutes Overtime. Chad, I swear on your life. 60 Minutes, Wikipedia. This must be like so fun just hearing me do this over and over again. I'm going to go to spinoffs. 60 Minutes More. Oh, they've already had spinoffs. Look at this. 60 and 6. 60 Minutes Plus. Congratulations, Chad. In March 2021, Paramount Plus premiered 60 Minutes Plus, I believe, to coincide with the release of Paramount Plus. The rebrand from CBS All Access to Paramount Plus. It was a weekly spinoff. It was aimed at a younger audience, and it was kind of like Vice News, like the Vice stuff Vice used to do. This is not their first time that 60 Minutes is trying to do something else. They've had spinoffs. They had 30 Minutes, apparently, which was aimed at children. It was on CBS's Saturday morning lineup from 1978 to 1982. Wow. At children, like Nick News, which is still going on, which is the same company. 60 Minutes More was a spinoff that ran for one season from 96 to 97. 60 Minutes 2 was was just a second edition of 60 Minutes. And that ran from 99 to 2005. 60 Minutes on CNBC, 60 Minutes Sports, 60 and 6, which is on Quibi. I don't remember that one. I remember Quibi, but I don't remember that show. But now we're getting additional time on the broadcast network, and they're adding a slew of digital spinoffs, including a podcast and a fast free ad-supported streaming channel. According to Bill Owens, who's the executive producer for the show, the first thing we wanted to do, quote, was to make sure that the bar was going to be as high for anything we do, wherever we put it out, as it is for the Sunday show. In digital, that means CBS News correspondent Seth Doane will lead a new podcast extension called 60 Minutes A Second Look, which will dig into the show's archives and unearth never-before-heard interviews as well as conversations with the correspondents and subjects. Cool. And then CBS will release a new 60 Minutes Fast channel, which launched last week, beginning on Paramount Plus and Pluto, with other platforms to follow. The channel will be programmed with, quote, legendary interviews by Mike Wallace, essays by Andy Rooney, and iconic moments featuring leading political figures, celebrities, artists, athletes, and innovators, which means everything that's on their YouTube channel, everything that's probably aired on 60 Minutes is going to air on there. And then there's going to be a pre-election CBS primetime special that's going to air on Monday, October 7th, featuring the latest reporting on Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and their campaigns. Cool. And for the second straight year, 6 episodes of 60 Minutes will fall. This fall will expand to 90 minutes, with Owens explaining that they will take a slightly different approach to the 30 minutes that reach into the 8 p.m. hour. All right. This is a lot to say, mostly that you're just getting more 60 Minutes, more of the same show, just more. A podcast is a great idea. It allows them to do something along the lines of Terry Gross's show, Fresh Air, on NPR, the same thing that 1A does on NPR as well. It's something that they should have done a while ago. I'm sorry, I just saw a story that I'm just it flabbergasted me. It says Shannon Sharpe admits to lying about phone hack after sex act goes live on Instagram. Okay. This is why I only read the thing, like I only read news and then I get off the internet. I think a fast channel is something that should have been done when they rebranded the Pluto. When Pluto and Paramount Plus were relaunched, to say the least. But to hear that channel is going to come to other fast platforms, which probably would include, I don't know, Tubi, would probably include Amazon Prime's free channels that they have. But again, the podcast thing's a good idea. It's just you could have something every single day for 5 days a week. That's what Terry Gross does. I think 6 days a week, but you can have something 5 days a week, and it doesn't have to be 60 minutes. And you can make money because people like 60 minutes, so you could sell them crap in the ad-supported space. A second look. It can cover all of the story that you couldn't. You could have the 60-minute story on. You could do the story, the 11-minute story on 60 Minutes, and then say, to get more of this story, go to 60minutes.com or subscribe to Paramount Plus to watch a special interview and listen to the podcast, have exclusive clips and things like that. But unfortunately, to get to this point, what it took was, again, if you didn't listen, a couple of weeks ago, CBS said that they're rebranding all of CBS News. Norah O'Donnell, on her own accord, is leaving CBS Evening News, and they're going to rebrand that show. And all of CBS News is basically getting an overhaul. And this has been a long time coming because we saw CBS Mornings get a change in the past year. I mean, this has been a long time coming, even when Chris Licht was here before he went to CNN, before he burned out at CNN. He can come and redo all of C Plus Comedy because we got nothing going on here. We could stand to use some change. But I like it. I like the idea. I like the plan. Let's get going. It's just jump into the fray at this point. This final one comes from The Verge, written by Jay Peters. Sony's new PS5 heralds the end of the disk drives. This is not something that I would necessarily comment on or agree with, but I do think it is very important to talk about. The PS5 Pro goes along with the same ideas of a mid-console refresh that we've had for the past, I think, 3 console generations. Was there a PS3 Pro? PS3 Pro. Nope. There was never a PS3 Pro, but there were different iterations on different models of the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. Starting in PlayStation 4's era, that's when we were getting Pro versions. So I believe we had an Xbox. What was the Xbox Pro? What was that Pro model? Anyway, basically, there's been different versions of every console for the past, like 4 or 5 generations, including Nintendo's Wii. There's one version of the Nintendo Wii where they removed the GameCube slot and the GameCube controller connections, which I hated that move. I hated that move so much. That's the reason to have a Wii. You can put your GameCube away, and you can play all the stuff on the Wii. The GameCube is and the PlayStation. The GameCube and the PlayStation are the only consoles I've never sold. Every other console, my 360, my Xbox One, my PS4, and I never had a PS3. I had this. I sold them so I could upgrade. Now, speaking of upgrades, the PS5 Pro, again, like the PS4 Pro and like the Xbox Pro, whichever one that was, I always keep the mainline ones, the ones that come out originally, because they're fine. They're fine. But the PS5 Pro is essentially, like the other ones, a very strong computer that only plays PS5 games. And I'm dumbing this down as to what I can understand it as. It's just slightly better graphics and slightly faster storage, and that's pretty much it. But one of the big things about this PS5 Pro, besides the price of $700, which we'll get into in a second, is that it is digital only. You can buy a separate disk drive if you want, but you don't have to. Now, what Mr. Peters, or Ms. Peters, or they Peters, what Jay is writing here suggests that Sony's offered disc-free variants before and inch in this direction with its PS5 Slim, because it's the same thing. You can also buy the separate. It's the PS5 Pro, but just not Pro. It's the PS5 but Slim. You can also buy a separate disc drive for $80. What Jay is suggesting here is that the PlayStation 6 will be an all digital console, or it will be a digital first console. And then the suggestion would be, hey, if you want to break off that back plate, not break it off, but snap off that back plate and put on a disk drive, you can. But you can save money. You can save money. You can spend $600 on PlayStation 6 and not have to buy an $80 add-on disc thing. We are not in a point in America, even in the world, where internet is easily accessible. It's not as it should be a right. I mean, at this point, internet is how people work, it's how people live, it's how people communicate. It should be a right. The same thing as water. You should have the right to water. You should have the right to internet. Call me a socialist. But what Jay is suggesting, that was so long without me talking. What Jay is suggesting is that the next console cycle with Sony, with Microsoft, maybe even with Nintendo, we're gonna be pointing towards that future where we're not going to be needing discs. A lot of people still collect physical media. I collect physical media. There's a watching the video. There's a shelf over there that has a couple hundred Blu-rays and DVDs. And under the TV, there's a bunch of physical games still under there. And yes, I do. I'm lucky enough to have Google Fiber, and that I'm able to download, the new Call of Duty in less than 10 minutes. Am I going to? No, because I don't have any room on my 100. It's like 100 some odd gigabytes. There's another game that I saw that I believe I own, and I don't remember, but I think it was like 200 gigabytes. I don't remember what game it was. I don't know how big it was, but I remember looking, and because I'm trying to play through Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I have a lot of issues with that game. I have so many issues with that game. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I just want a good adventure game, and I'm not this Dark Souls like stuff is just too much for me. But it tells it's telling a good story. Also, again, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. There are things I have to go to Wikipedia. I've only seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, and like two like full Star Wars movies all the way through. And God, what was the one I did this last time? Not Star Wars Resistance. There's a TV Rebels. I saw Rebels. I just recently in the past couple of months watched Rebels all the way through. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I think the fans are super racist. Very true. But there are some things that happen in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I think I've said this about Star Wars Rebels. There's some things that happen in Jedi Survivor where I'm going, oh my God, this is like a huge step in the story in terms of like the overall Star Wars universe. Imagine not playing that game and only going to see the movies and then watching the TV shows like The Mandalorian and The Acolyte. Man, I've seen The Mandalorian. There you go. Last year's giant Xbox leak revealed a cylindrical, adorably all-digital Xbox Series X redesign too. There was the Xbox Series S is all-digital and can't play discs, although it is slightly weaker than the Xbox Series X, which can play discs. This is retailers are not really carrying physical media anymore. We've seen Best Buy stop carrying physical movies. Target said it'll be mostly ditching its physical products, its physical DVDs and movies. Redbox is done. UK retailer Game has already ended video game trade-ins. At some point, I don't know what will happen with GameStop. But we're pointing towards a future where people aren't going to be able to buy games physically anymore. I think it's going to be in 2 generations, but 1 generation would be like the step. And it's the same thing for what Apple did with the USB-C port. All of its computers, its laptops, the Mac Mini, the iPad, they all had USB-C ports well before the iPhone did. And then eventually, was it the 15? It was the first one that received the USB-C port. And now every iPhone product going forward, the new AirPods, the new AirPods Maxes, I would say Pros, they all have USB-C ports. Why? Because that's where the future is leaning. That's what makes more sense. And if the internet gets better, where people have good internet, then and they don't have to put in disk drives. Sony and Microsoft don't have to put in disk drives, and Nintendo doesn't put in a cartridge drive. Then it's just going to be less moving parts inside that console, and they're going to be able to make a smaller console. And, more or less, hopefully give you more power. Phil Spencer, who is the Microsoft gaming CEO, recently said the company's strategy, quote, does not hinge on people moving all digital, and that getting rid of physical is not a strategic thing for us. But if your $700 gaming computer can't play a 4K Blu-ray of The Dark Knight, then what's the point of having that besides playing a game? Also, this is not a hot take. You don't need the PS5 Pro. You don't need a PS4 Pro. Just play it on the same console. It's all the same thing. Okay, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometimes. I believe I will have an interview up this week, I think. And then next week, I will also have an interview up. Let me check the calendar. It's so important that I do this right now. Yeah, I will have oh my God, we have 2 interviews up for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be great. So I'll talk about that when that happens. If you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see me sitting down and talking. If you want to see a video version of the other shows, Late Night Lately and the Late Night Show and LinkedIn Logs, which is the Jobs podcast, that's where you can find them as well as the video interviews of the interviews. If you want to listen to those shows, subscribe to them wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at C Plus Comedy, me at Chad Black White. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye right now.